Bonjour, comment ça va? Oui, bien. I'm so happy today because I have such an amazing musician on the show. And it's also episode 12, which I'm really proud of. We're like climbing the ladder, moving on up with House of Royale. So let me do a little intro for our beautiful, gorgeous guest. He is a composer, an actor, a comedian, an author, and a former Ford model. Please, everyone, give it up for Mr. Ilia Yordanov.
Introduced that way for the rest of my time on.
For your new OnlyFans account?
Yeah, sure. That works. Yeah.
This is me being exhausted and overtired, so I'm just going to be like laughing hysterically at shit that's not even funny, but...
It's my preference.
But you are funny, so this will be a very good time. Ilia, you just got off tour with a super famous... What's the word? They give us nostalgia. They give us 90s. You have been on tour with Orgy, who we all adore. Shout out to rock music. Is it rock or industrial?
I would say that for that band typically falls into the industrial category, but, you know, coming back to the band name, its sort of origin really came from the idea that we're just an amalgam of different genres. It's a blending of everything, so we don't really pigeonhole ourselves into any genre.
Okay, well, shout out to industrial, rock, metal, whatever the hell. It's a sick band. And also shout out to Little Miss Nasty. You guys are always seeing each other on the road. You just saw them in Vegas, right?
Yeah, we played a festival called Sick New World, and they were performing the night before at a venue called Area 15 in Vegas as well. So I went out to see them because they're my girls, and I adore them.
Same. And Gina, I cannot wait to have you on the show. So let's start from the beginning. You have a lot to tell the people. I think that what you have to say is super important and educational and informative. And it will give the general public more insight on not only you as a human, but just the mind of an artist. Because I think a lot of people don't understand artists. I have learned lately that a lot of people really don't get us very well. They think that it's just art that we're making out here and it's super easy and it's not a grind. It just is. I think a lot of people are confused as to what it takes to not only become a true artist, but remain in the business. And you have not quit. You have not thrown in the towel. You've stayed in showbiz for a very long time, which I commend everyone out there who we may not be superstars and like multimillionaires, but we're still in the game doing it. And there is much to be said for that.
Absolutely.
So let's start with your origin story. Tell the people where you're from and how it all started.
Well, I was born in Bulgaria. And at the time that I was pretty much moving out here, my dad had sort of devised this genius plot to get us out of Bulgaria because there were still communist laws in effect, even though that all that sort of thing was dissipating with the fall of the Berlin Wall and all that. And so we essentially got an exit visa to Nicaragua, which was also a communist country. But there was a layover in Madrid and then a layover in San Juan in Puerto Rico, American territory. So essentially what ended up happening is when we got to Puerto Rico, we never got back on the flight to continue with the trip to Nicaragua. The two men from the airline company charaded as marshals and pretended to be marshals and were trying to get us to get back on the flight. And he essentially called them on their bullshit because he saw they didn't have holsters. And there was nothing they could do about it. They face hefty fines if they don't get all the passengers to their final destination. So that's why they were so insistent we get back on the flight. And then this sort of angel-like being just basically took us in, took care of us for the 2 weeks we were there, gave us asylum, gave us an option of where we wanted to go. My dad chose San Diego. And then we were dropped off in San Diego with like $50 and a shirt sponsorship that paid our rent.
How old were you when all of this was happening?
I was a month shy of 3. My brother
Wow.
was 6 months old, and my parents were 23, I believe.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty nutty.
To all the writers out there, I know you're on strike, but don't even think about stealing this story because we're gonna have like Paramount or Universal buy it.
Yeah, it was pretty wacky. It was crazy too. It was a lot of pressure on my mom because 2 weeks later, my dad took off to work on one of those like fishing boats in Alaska, and my mom was all by herself. It's like working for a maid under the table and like couldn't speak a word of English, and it was pretty gnarly. I remember those years like vividly.
So, what was your first language?
It was Bulgarian.
Okay.
I spoke Bulgarian in the household until maybe like about 6 or 7 years old, and started speaking a combination of both, and eventually all of us just were speaking English
Can you still
exclusively.
speak it fluently?
I can.
Can you say something?
What do you want me to say?
I am a guitar player and a rock
That's a long
star and
sentence, and I wouldn't even say I was a rock star in English, let alone Bulgarian. It's gonna sound infinitely more cheesy.
Okay, we'll just say I came to the States when I was 3. I don't know.
Let me see if I can say this fluently. Аз дойдах в Щатите, когато бях на 3 години.
Hot. We're loving this, right,
Yeah,
ladies?
I'm
This is
surprised I
hot.
did that.
That sounds so beautiful. I love Bulgarian.
Yeah, it's a little less Slavic than Russian. It's kind of a combination of both Romanian and Russian. It's got a little bit of a Latin edge to it and also some Slavic.
Yes.
Slavic is what makes it more harsh.
Super gorgeous. Okay, so you guys came where first in the States?
San Diego. So we were in San Diego for the
Wow.
first 2 years.
Okay.
And eventually
Most people start in New York and then go to like Chicago.
that was an option. Both those
Okay.
cities were an option. I don't know. I guess my dad had done some reading about California when we were in Bulgaria, and that was why he kind of vectored in on that. But
So
yeah.
your dad was really smart. He was
He
like
was.
a genius.
Yeah, I mean, what he
Kinda.
did was really, really intrepid and ballsy. I mean, I guess my uncle, his wife's, my mom's sister's husband was making fun of him and essentially telling him that this plan was never going to work out. So he was getting a lot of shit from everyone before he did it.
Wow.
You know, no one believed it was going to work out. And so, yeah, he pulled it off, and then he helped a lot of people afterwards as well. He
Wow.
was just really, really awesome human being.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in San Diego, you're turning 4.
Turning 3.
Turning 3.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So how does music come into play?
Oh, wow. So it was actually in San Diego that I remember my first memory of seeing someone playing an acoustic guitar. And it's actually one of my first most vivid memories and one of my earlier memories. And I don't know, it kind of etched itself in the back of my mind. I was just fascinated with the whole mechanism of like the chording and the strumming.
But somehow theater came before music.
As far as what I was doing, yes, as far as doing it like, with friends and at home and not in school, that came later. Obviously, I was playing an instrument by then. But yeah, my interest was predominantly in film first.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, you booked gigs at 15 and 16 as a musician.
Yeah, no, I started playing music professionally when I was 15. I started gigging when I was like 15.
That's a child.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Essentially,
It is.
I know in the music industry, 15 is all the pedophiles think it's 18, but
Yikes.
Okay, so but acting was first, right?
Yeah, well, no, actually, I guess no. Professionally, I didn't really start acting until I was 20, and I started playing when I was 15. I mean, my interest was in film first. I made efforts to try to do that first, obviously, but no, music most certainly came first in a career sense, in a professional sense.
Okay, so in school, you had the band.
Yes, my first band was when I was 13 years old.
And you guys were good, and you were like, oh shit, there's something here.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, we felt that when I played my first talent show, 7th grade. And, like I said earlier to you when we spoke yesterday, it's just before sort of where my reverence was at I got, ridiculed and denigrated for being like a teacher's pet and being a good student.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't until I actually like picked up an instrument and then I received that sort of lauding, and that was the first time I actually felt cool.
Right.
That if it was like a special, but it wasn't only special for that. It wasn't just the ego boost. I just felt that there was something there, this sort of like intangible X factor of like there's this energy, and I felt it that day, and I just knew from there on out that was what I wanted to do, and that's what I was meant to do. So
yeah,
yeah,
that Blink 182 song just killed.
Which what?
The
Oh,
one
for
the first one you guys learned, right?
no that. Oh yeah, the first song we ever played in rehearsal was "Mutt" by Blink-182. Yeah,
Shout out Blink 182.
yeah, for sure. They're great.
Isn't Courtney married to Travis?
I guess.
All of a sudden, you are being hired as a session player, right?
Well, essentially, yeah. I mean, it wasn't really a hired gun thing as much as back then. It was just you just joined bands and you were a part of the band, and it was.
And you and your brother created a band called Red Museum.
Yes, that was later on. That was when I was 18. I finally started. I wasn't playing in other bands and playing other people's music as much. I started writing my own, although I couldn't sing worth shit back then, whether it was because I just didn't have the technique or I was too scared to project and, hadn't opened up like that. I most certainly, it was embarrassing. Like, if you guys go and search that, you'll see just how horribly and incapable and inept I was at singing. But it was very liberating to finally be doing my own thing. And it most certainly was a catalyst for things to come down the road, for sure.
That's so funny because Ed Sheeran says the same thing about his singing, that he was just awful and just slowly over time got great.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like belief goes a long way. And I just feel like when you're not able to sing well, it's so, I mean, my dad said some of the funniest shit to me, I swear to God. Like,
oh, my mom destroyed me.
And I love it though, because it put a fire under my ass. But it's funny. It's like most of the time it would be pretty brutal and those will go unsaid. But there was one time when he tried to be more delicate about it. And he was just like, he came to one of our shows, our bigger shows. He's like, that was good. But have you considered maybe getting another singer, you could focus on? And I just lost it because I always held authenticity and just being direct as a love language way above, false praise and compliment. That doesn't really help anyone.
Right. Well, he was much nicer to you than my mom. I mean, she came around in the end, but
I didn't get into the shit that was said beforehand, but.
Oh, okay. So he was abusive too. Okay. Got it. I mean, really though.
Just hearing Danny laugh.
It's mental abuse.
Hey man, it helps though. It really, I mean, not that I'm promoting it. I'm just saying.
I don't think so. It still haunts me to this day. I know she feels terribly about it because she haunts me from wherever the hell she is now. But I know you feel bad about it, Mom, and I know you think I'm amazing. So thank you.
She's proud of you. No, it's funny. On that note, I remember watching the Arnold documentary recently, and he raised an interesting point about that. It's how that overtly disciplined household is something that drove him to his stratospheric success, but that same thing that drove him also eventually ended up killing his brother. He had praised him as the more intelligent one, the more artistic one, the more sensitive one, really. And that wasn't something that drove him. It can drive a certain type of person like yourself, myself, but I feel like it could really do some serious damage to many people. So obviously not promoting that sort of child rearing. Just full disclaimer.
Let's move into modeling. How in the hell did that happen?
So with that, it started in Seattle, and I had heard from several people that I could potentially do it. I knew that there were 2 agencies that were decent in Seattle. I knew that it was also a liaison into the acting world, which is what my ultimate goal was. So, I had gone in and to one of those open calls or whatever, and they liked me and ended up signing me. It was always sort of an auxiliary collateral thing to everything I was doing. I never really took off for me, but it was ultimately the catalyst that got me to move down to LA, which I knew I was always going to return back to Southern California. I just didn't know when and how. And so I was with this agency in Seattle called Hefner Management, and nothing really ever took off. So I decided to just make my own book, which was Kinko's back then. It's FedEx now. And then when I was visiting down here in 2008 with my girlfriend at the time in September, I just walked into Ford in West Hollywood, and I just gave someone my book, and they signed me right then and there against most people's, enthusiasm. They weren't really they weren't stoked on the idea because I wasn't your traditional guy at the time. I was, obviously thin, had long hair. I was very edgy and editorial, and they were really pushing more catalog guys at the time because we were in a recession, and that's what was paying clients like Macy's and Target and et cetera and whatever. I had some fun shoots. I never really, not only did I not really ever make any money doing that, actually agencies ended up dropping me while I was still in debt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It never now it seems like there's a market for that sort of look, but back then there wasn't. But I do want to give a shout out to the people at the time that really fought tooth and nail for me. But for some reason there was just roadblocks thrown in every corner. It didn't work out. And I didn't take it personally, objectively. I was just like, I get it. It makes sense. You know, it takes time to develop someone and whatever. And at the time we were in a recession and, you know, there were reasons for it. So it was okay. It was okay.
What do you think about male models right now? Do you see more of your look happening or?
Yeah, I do. I feel like there's a lot more of an amenability and, you know, just a receptivity to that. I just feel like with the whole you know, being open to like non-binary looks and that sort of thing, I just feel like there's a market for that now.
So Ford, if you're listening, can you re-sign him? That would be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, no, not necessary. But
like a Dolce and Gabbana.
everyone was always saying, no, you need to be in New York, you need to be in Paris and whatever. So it's like, you know, at the time I like flew to New York, lived on $141 for 2 weeks, staying at my friend's place in Park Slope in Brooklyn. And I, for the most part, walked on foot in Manhattan to like 12 different agencies, to which only one remotely considered signing me.
When was this?
This was, what was May 2010.
That was a long time ago. I think you should
Yeah.
do it again. How much would someone have to pay you to do a runway show?
Oh, I mean, I don't know, whatever. I don't really feel like I'm at a place in my life now where it's like it's not really so much about money as much as
$5,000.
No.
Okay.
Like, funny.
I mean, look, I think artists need to start getting in the mindset of asking for more money.
Well, that I agree with, because like everybody's been saying throughout the strike, I mean, the whole deal structure needs to be modified in accordance with how everything else has been evolving and changing. You know, absolutely. So I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%.
Whitney Cummings is a multi-millionaire with a ranch and horses. Okay.
Ranch and horses, really?
Yes. She has like a freaking complex. Like there's a gate and it takes like an hour to get to her freaking castle. So it's like, you guys, we can do this. It's just Whitney got in there and she's like, how much are you getting paid? How much are you getting paid? What are your taxes? Like she asked her whole career and found out what the guys were getting and what the girls were getting. And she just like kept being annoying about it. And look at where she is now. It's just
all
like
that from stand-up. Forget about runway then. I should get back into stand-up.
I mean, she wrote Two Broke Girls and claims that's where she got a lot of the money. But she also said that she just like nonstop worked because her parents were like in the hospital or some shit.
I respect that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really because she manifested it and kept asking and believed that she deserved it. And I just want to spread that message today because we can do it without someone giving us the money and like selling our souls.
Absolutely. I most certainly agree. I mean, it's the longer path for sure. It's the one that requires a lot more patience and shadow work and all that sort of stuff. But it's very much possible.
Do you notice major label artists suffering?
Yeah, actually, I have a friend who's on a major label, one of many, who is not going through the best time right now. He's doing a little better now, but for months on end, he was just really struggling.
Is there a reason why?
Well, if the expectations are not met and the things that he'd hoped were happening are not happening, then the problem with being signed to a major label too is, and what's happened with friends in the past too, is that they basically have exclusivity. You know, you're signed to an exclusive contract with them. You can't move on to greener pastures or to anyone else or explore different options. I mean, you're bound to them. They can shelve you and you're under their wing, essentially.
Yeah.
So there's a power play there, and it could get pretty fucked up, for lack of a better statement. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm very trepidatious when it comes to hopping onto major anything without having a certain degree of foundation to begin with.
Have you ever seen a healthy situation with a big time artist where like they have a great manager and a great team and they're like taken care of properly? Or does it always seem like these artists are in turmoil and there's like drama and like drugs and alcohol and all that?
I feel that there was a time where that was the case. I just feel that there's so much anxiety at the moment that and there isn't this patience for development. There isn't this patience for vision like there used to be. So, and I feel like that's sort of the Achilles heel of the entire operation. And And yeah, I feel like the people that they're pursuing now are the ones that want it the most. And then what kind of sort of gets lost in that whole process is the dedication to the artistry itself.
How do older artists feel about TikTok?
I mean, I can't speak for other people, but what I can say is that like it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have a TikTok account. I put up like a couple videos of, my guitar videos and maybe some like orgy stuff, but then I just gave up. I was like, I can't fucking do this shit, man.
I can't believe that we are seeing these kids doing the trends to get followers, and they're not focused on artist development. They're focused on gaining 10 million followers so that then they do get signed by these labels. But like the artist development was more so about TikTok.
Yeah, yeah.
It wasn't about nourishing their sound.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's sort of across the board, whether you're a musician or whether I've gone to premieres recently where there's a whole separate line for influencers and
Oh
TikTokers.
my God.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they are taking a higher precedent over some of like the, working actors or day players on that show or movie that's premiering.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting, preferential treatment and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, it's really come down to numbers, really, and then just like who's the stronger commodity.
So for a band like Orgy, would it be necessary for you guys to do TikTok, or are you guys happy with where it's at?
I wouldn't say it'd be necessary. Could it, add some buoyancy? Sure.
Yeah.
Do any one of us feel compelled to, attribute our time and energy to, I don't know, a vacuous portal like that? I mean, I guess. I mean, I'd rather honestly probably pay or hire someone to do it than to invest my time and energy into that.
Yeah.
Because that's different. It's not like a personal thing. It doesn't feel as Galilean. It's more focused on our art and our music and our band. So it's
Exactly.
Like,
And I would say it's way more fulfilling to have a crowd of people that know the lyrics and know the songs and be so dedicated to watching you guys. And I would assume that your guys' audience, there's less phones going like this, and there's more people like engaging in the show and like rocking out with you guys.
absolutely. No, that's just want to give a shout out to the fans that we do have. I mean, obviously with our band, we're not all over, any sort of mainstream outlets and social media or whatever. So it's like one thing that I thought of to myself and in my journey with all this is that the fascinating thing about our brains and people is that we might sometimes like things genuinely for authentic reasons, but sometimes we just might like things and trick ourselves into liking things because that's the current hot thing to be
Yep.
into. Like, for example, when I was in 7th grade and everyone there was back to Abercrombie and everyone was wearing Abercrombie and I tricked my brain into believing I liked it so that I could feel relevant and integrate myself into the cool crowd. And I feel like that goes along with almost anything. And it's like, not to be too bleak, but even when you're on stage and you're playing in front of 10,000 people and you're the hot it thing right now, everyone could be there praising you and lauding you to that extent because people are being told that that's what's hot and cool right now. So, and now reeling back to answer your question, what I love about the Orgy fans is that given that we're not like the hottest thing right now or like, remotely even into any sort of media outlets or whatever, the fact that the fans come out and after 25 years still continue to show this like resilient support, to me it means the world. It's awesome, and it also is a reminder that they actually love the music for authentic reasons. Like they really are into it. It's that's been one of the biggest gifts of being in the band for the 5 years that I've been into it, is seeing like how dedicated the fans are to the music. I mean, I was a fan of the band long before I joined it when I was a kid too. So yeah.
Who have you guys played with? Like, does anyone come to mind that was like a really cool moment?
Well, before my time, Orgy's first tour was Family Values, which was a stadium tour with Korn, Ice Cube, Rammstein, and Limp Bizkit.
Wow.
Yeah, Orgy hit the ground running. They were signed to Korn's label Elementary because the Orgy guys and Korn they were all friends and played in bands together and yada yada yada. So yeah, that started out that way. And then in my time that I've been with the band, I would say that, Sick New World was probably my favorite show that we played. I mean, we played with Deftones and Korn played that show as well. System of a Down, one of my favorite bands, which is Placebo, played that show as well. A new up and coming band that I absolutely love. Shout out to them, Spirit Box. So yeah, I would say that was a big ass festival. So I would say that definitely takes the cake.
So incredible. I wish I was there. So what label was Orgy originally with?
So Elementary was, I believe, with a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. So it was Warner Brothers, essentially. Yeah.
And still?
And that was Jonathan Davis's label. No, right now we're independent.
Amazing.
We're on D1. Yeah, it's been independent since the band sort of restarted in 2011.
And where is the publishing at? Like when new music is released? I mean, that must be amazing for them to split.
Yeah, I mean, we all just split it, and it's just we basically, everything.
So you're on the publishing too?
Yeah, we all are.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So are you going to release anything new?
Yeah, we just obviously released a track. I think it was in January, released a new track called Empty, and then we have 2 that are about to come out, one sooner than the other. But yeah, in the next, probably before the end of the year, both will have been released.
And isn't Leah Culver on one of the songs?
Yes, Leah is in the latter. She's in one called When the Crows Sleep that we'll be releasing later on this year.
Okay, but she performed it live with you guys.
She did. She performed it with us when we played the Whiskey in March.
Yeah.
Here in LA, and then she performed it with us at Sick New World in Vegas as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Incredible.
Shout out to that girl too. She's just a force.
Shout out Leah. We need to schedule your wardrobe sesh. She wants me to help her with wardrobe. I was like so flattered. Oh my God. Really quickly, Stephen Meisel.
Oh, going back to that?
Just really quick. It'll be a rough editing session, but whatever. So when you were modeling, you did a photo shoot with Stephen Meisel.
I did.
Oh my God. Okay, so this is pretty crazy. I've heard of a few other celebrities with the same requirements that he had on set, but you were saying that there were a few rules you guys had to abide by.
One major one, yes.
And what was it?
We're not allowed to look at him.
Okay. That is crazy. So, but I mean, did you catch a glimpse of him working at all?
Absolutely. I still looked at him.
Yeah.
I mean, he fucking hated it. I mean, the worst was like, we had to wear these heavy ass, practically they were astronaut suits. They were Dolce & Gabbana suits, and we were in the swimming pool. And this was in downtown LA. I don't know if it's like where they have the symphonies and whatnot, but it was like just built, right? And it was like super modern, whatever. We were in a pool there. We're all treading water because we're all basically just accessory to like this one main supermodel girl that we were shooting with. And so we're treading water. I'm like, my heart's racing, about to beat out of my chest. And I'm just like looking in different directions to avoid having a panic attack. And I landed on him. I'm just staring at him. And it pissed him the fuck off. And he has to tell like his assistant to tell that assistant to tell this like servant that we're not allowed to look at him. It's like, this is fucking ridiculous. What am I doing? For $150 a day, mind you.
Man. But I mean, he's been around forever, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's great. He's great at what he does.
That's some old school shit.
It is.
But he is one of the greats. Just incredible.
For sure. I mean, there's no denying that.
Oh yeah, older female photographers. Have any
It's just
we need to talk about this because artists in LA, mainly in LA, I would say more so in LA. Danny hasn't dealt with this yet, but you know.
Yet, Danny.
We always talk about the women getting hit on by these older men, you know,
sure.
But it happens to the boys too. And you were 18 when you came to LA, which is like
20,
which in LA is like 100. To a mature business woman, the 18-year-olds are like delicious new meat. So did you ever deal with like a casting director or a female producer or like a female photographer coming on to you and like kind of flirting with you and hitting on you?
Oh, for sure. 100%. I have. But I never really felt at any point that it was perilous or that I didn't have my footing or couldn't handle it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that just comes with the territory, you know. Obviously, people in certain degrees of power and influence know that there's a sea of desperation and there's something to be, you know, salvaged from that to their benefit and to the detriment of the person that is turning a blind eye in the midst of their desperation. I mean, that's typically the formula. That's been going on forever.
Yeah, I would just like to say to the models out there, have someone read your contracts and know what you're signing, because a lot of these photographers will take your images and just use them for whatever,
Hmm.
and not pay you
Well,
or.
that's a real, threat on the horizon now with AI, and
Mhm.
that with what I'd heard about scanning background actors and having their usage for eternally, essentially.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So they would get a day's pay and then they'd have their image used forever, essentially. The whole thing is wild. I feel like that was one of the main sort of frightening catalysts for the strike too,
Yeah.
is the onset of all the AI stuff, which is just so wacky. I didn't think that I'd see it come to this degree in my lifetime.
It's happening fast.
It is.
Elon, are you gonna fix it? Or are you just gonna focus on X? Anyway. Okay, so right. So the dangers of predatory people out here, you guys, like if someone is a predator, tell somebody, read your contracts, make sure you're protected. It would be lovely for everyone to have an attorney or a manager, like really someone that knows how to read these contracts, and try not to do shit for free. Don't work for free. And
Well, there's just a pressure. I mean, if people are doing stuff for free now, if that is a thing, it's because, like we had spoken about before, with social media the way that it is now, and you have all these young people in such embryonic stages of their development, and they're just feeling so unseen, unheard, drowned out by other people with more followers, and like this
yes.
false representation of what their lives entail, and they feel that they need to catch up, and they'll turn a blind eye at the expense of their dignity, their principles, their values. They don't even know who they are yet. They haven't really developed.
Yeah.
And so, that can lead down some perilous roads for sure.
I mean, it's sad for us too. Like I had a pretty big time A&R person tell me that Stupid Girl is a hit record. And I'm like, well, yeah, but like there's no money behind it. Like, of course it would be a hit song, people. Like, it's a great
Yeah.
song, and there's so much great music out there. And if it doesn't have a push or a machine behind it, no one cares.
Yeah,
Nobody cares.
for sure.
It's like you have to put a TikTok dance to like a 15-second clip of your song and do it 1,000 times.
Absolutely.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But in my heart, I'm like, I have a hit song.
You have many.
Thank you, Ilia. That's so sweet of you.
It's true, though.
Wait, violin.
It's almost like you're reading like scribbles off a yellow like notepad.
Wait, who's Michael Grant?
Oh, that was. This is the weirdest.
It's okay. It's
yeah,
it's
no.
so good.
Michael was a former bandmate of mine. We were when that was.
Oh,
younger,
right.
yeah.
That was your first, like,
Not first one. Yeah.
but a good one that you like.
Yeah. No, Michael's a friend of mine. That was one of the bands that I was in. I mean, that was when we were sort of tracking my journey with the different bands that I was in. So when I'd come to LA, obviously I didn't have. I mean, I had my band with my brother back home, but my focus was exclusively set on acting, and then I was modeling and whatever else. So Michael was my re-entry. Essentially, I kept running into him everywhere in LA, and we had played music. We'd met through like ex-girlfriends and whatnot, and so I just kept running into him, and we just felt like it was a sign that we should get together and start playing, and it all came together really fast. This was around 2011, 2012, and we started playing. We only played like 2 shows, and then I started acting regularly, and that was sort of taking off for me. And so the band, I left the band at the time, but it was fun. I mean, he went on to do LA Guns later on down the road, and I joined Orgy, and we still keep in touch to this day. And he's a very talented musician. He used to be in a band called Endeavor After. I think they were signed to Universal or something way back in the day. So yeah.
I want to get into comedy because I am a huge fan of stand-up comedy.
Yes.
Gosh, and like shout out to WTF Media Studios, and WTF is known for having the biggest comedians worldwide. In this studio, the New York location especially, we love comedy. So you got into stand-up.
Yes, I did. Not, it was something that was sort of presented to me as an idea from friends over time, but it was one specific friend that essentially got me acquainted with a promoter over at the Comedy Store. And I started out just doing the bringer shows regularly there, and was doing it for several years. That was back in like 2017 when I started. And I loved it because I felt like it was one of the few platforms left at that time. I don't really feel like it applies as much anymore, where you were revered for speaking truthfully in an uncensored way, you know? And there were some things in my set I remember where were seen as controversial, but then the people that, you know, I'd have certain people come and be like, you know, you probably shouldn't say that if you want to end up on TV or on the radio. But then the people that could potentially be the ones that are on the opposite end of being offended or whatever were the ones telling me to keep going.
Yeah.
And that they enjoy, and like that wasn't true at all. So anyway, that never really made much of a big impact on me. I kept doing it. I loved doing it. I enjoyed it. I mean, it just felt super raw and natural. I mean, there was just no layers of bullshit whatsoever. And then I just feel that as of recent, if you have titans like certain comedians that are going to go unnamed that can get attacked from whatever angle, and understandably so, I get that there are sensitive topics, but the thing about comedy is that we're supposed to enter that universe and at least give it some poetic license and just let go a little bit. You know, it's not like things shouldn't be taken so literally, because once you start censoring it too much, then all we're left with is fart and sex jokes. And I'm just, that's not my world. I mean, that's.
You're giving me Anthony Jeselnik.
Oh, it's funny. I've actually, he's interesting. I seen him a couple of times at the Improv. Yeah, he's good.
His main topic is like dead babies. So
yeah, he loves. I've noticed that he loves just saying shit that just really fucking just breaks the ice, man. He's got his.
And if the audience laughs, he's like, "Okay, now I know how awful you people are, so I can continue on with my set."
Yeah, totally.
He's like, "That was a test."
He just gauges the temperature. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a prime example of somebody that doubles down on the shit that you are literally not allowed to even. I mean, he's not even talking about pop culture. He's just making shit up, and it's sinister and awful.
Yeah. I mean, the truth of the matter is you can virtue signal and moral posture all you want out in public and whatever, but when we're alone, like the Japanese say, there's 3 faces to a human being. There's the side that you show the public. There's the side that you show your friends and family. And then the third face, which was black, is the side that only you see. And one of the biggest compliments I ever got was from my brother. I don't know if it's true or not, but at least as far as his perspective is concerned, is he said that I was the third face all the time. And I took that as the biggest compliment, because that's what I strive for, is authenticity against all odds. And for me, I just feel that even the virtue signalers have had moments alone where they've said some pretty potentially fucking offensive shit. And the truth is that at the end of the day, if you could just connect with other people and just acknowledge that we all slip from time to time and that we're all human, and at least we leave some room for conversation, debate, and just enjoy just having some dark humor, I feel that in itself is cathartic and healing. And if you start taking that away from people, you're going to have a lot of pent-up fucking aggression. It's going to create a very polarized world.
There are comedians that are doing such a great job, though, of like carrying us through their comedic style or vibe. And we were talking about this yesterday. Like comedians that are out in the scene right now really killing the game, that kind of like leave you with a great feeling.
For sure.
So who are some people that you feel are like giving us the love of comedy without like the nasty taste in our mouth?
So when it comes to self-deprecation, I've always loved Jeff Ross. I met him back in 2010 at a party we were at. I'm sure he doesn't remember me, but I've run into him many times over the years. I just think that guy's hilarious. He just is so good at making fun of himself, and I just feel that his timing is just great. Him and Dave Attell do a thing called bumping mics, and I just love like comedy where you're working off another person as opposed to just being solo stand-up, and I just enjoy watching that. So shout out to him.
Shout out Jeff Ross.
Theo Von's fucking hilarious. I mean, like I said to you yesterday, I just feel like he just says shit without thinking, and somehow still doesn't get in trouble, but it's somehow still just like on the edge, and it's fucking hilarious.
Theo is hysterical, and he has his own vocabulary, which is
for sure. Yeah,
so
he does.
Funny. Like over the top Southern accent, the mullet. It's so camp.
It is, yeah.
And it's a character, and it's like, one of your like family friends that you just love to watch. I met Theo. I met Theo in LA. And he was really nice.
Yeah.
And thank you for still supporting me, Theo. Even though you're super famous, I still see you on my Instagram from time to time, and I really appreciate that.
And then Christina P, I think, is hilarious.
Oh, yeah, Christina.
I think she's great.
I love
Yeah.
Christina.
Eliza Schlesinger, I think is. I'm sorry if I butchered the last name, but I think she's hilarious as well.
Eliza Schlesinger, your abs are literally putting me in a grave. Like, I cannot with you. She's working out right now for her tour, and
Mhm.
she's been doing Pilates, and she just had a baby. And she literally has like a 6-pack, like just shredded. So
Good for her.
shout out, baby girl. You look amazing, and you're hysterical.
Mhm.
Yeah, Eliza's so funny. And like, I love how she can make fun of the things that women do without being misogynistic. Like, she's
Totally.
still a girl's girl. Like, when
Mhm.
she takes out her bag and gets on the floor and like starts rummaging through it like the Kraken or like some creature from like a horror movie, you know? And it's like the Mary Poppins bag where you can't ever find what the fuck you're looking for.
Right.
It's just
I
so
didn't even know
funny.
that she did that.
Yeah, she does a lot of physical comedy.
So just like is there like props involved?
No, but it seems like there is. Like, she
Okay.
makes it seem so real. And like her buzzwords, the words that she makes up, because she's similar to Theo in that she makes up her own terminology, and she'll hashtag it like on the screen, like for her specials,
Mm-hmm.
which is so like clever. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I love the way that she curates her show.
Absolutely, yeah. I just feel that her and Christina P are probably like my favorite girl comedians right now.
Yes, and Christina's special, I forget what it's called, but she's in the hot pink suit.
Yeah, that one was great. You know, my sister Melanie referred that to me and told me to watch it. And we both have like a super dark sense of humor, so I was like, okay, well then this has to be good. And I watched it and I thought it was great. It also had a lot of heart, and that was the one thing about that special that kind of stuck with me, is like I've never seen something like be on one end of the spectrum of like dark comedy, but then also have a lot of heart as well. And it did towards the end. It like wrapped up beautifully. So
yeah,
she's good. She's good with that.
I would also like to say I just saw the movie The Haunted Mansion, and I cried and I laughed, and I loved you, Tiffany. You were so amazing. She plays the fortune teller, Tiffany Haddish.
Tiffany Haddish, okay.
And I loved her. I thought she was hysterical, and just wanted to give her a shout out for that.
Nice.
Because I don't know if the movie's doing well, but everyone's on strike right now, and it kind of sucks that it came out right as the strike is like happening.
But is that really affecting premieres and screenings? And
it didn't affect Barbenheimer.
I loved Oppenheimer.
You saw it?
Absolutely. Like opening day, 10 a.m. Chinese theater, 70 millimeter IMAX. Absolutely. A Nolan film. I'm there either day before or day of. Totally.
Do you know who did the music?
Yeah, Ludwig Göransson, I believe is his name. He took over.
Wow.
Hans always did his music, but then Hans went on to do Dune right around the time Chris was doing Tenet. So, he basically took on Ludwig under his wing, who Hans had essentially gave the blessing to. And he's phenomenal. He's incredible. Both Tenet and Oppenheimer have absolutely gorgeous scores.
Who is your favorite movie director?
So growing up, I mean, obviously, for me, it was James Cameron. Definitely took the cake. I absolutely adored him. Everything he did. You know, I remember waking up and watching Aliens. Actually, I was in third grade. I would wake up 2 hours early every morning just to watch it. I had it on VHS. And then obviously after that, he did like The Abyss, True Lies, going into Titanic, which I loved. I just feel that he's really is a genius. Him, Kubrick, and Nolan. I would say those three. All Leos, by the way. Random fun fact. Hitchcock too. But absolutely, it was James Cameron for me for many reasons. And then I think I told you this yesterday. One thing that he did that no one else was really doing at the time is he sort of, aside from the Schwarzenegger Terminator thing, particularly in Terminator 2, is
Arnold is a vegan, by the way.
He pioneered, like he really did the whole female protagonist thing. Like when I preferred watching female action heroes over guys. I loved Sigourney Weaver in Aliens. And then when Linda Hamilton came on in Terminator 2 and she was ripped the way she was, and her character, as a little boy, I was just like, what the fuck? I was just like, I loved it. It was
so
awesome.
True. Yeah, that was a great intro into bringing the female character on the screen in like a less sexualized.
Absolutely. I had read something that it was thanks to his mom. I think James Cameron's mom raised him to really love and respect women. And so I feel like that obviously played a big role into it. And it was. And then going into Fifth Element, which was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid too, Mila Jovovich's character. I mean, she's the one that, saves the world, and she is the fifth element. Like I was just always drawn to
Mila. Shout out Mila.
So yeah.
And also shout out to James's ex-wife who directed The Hurt Locker.
Yeah. You had asked me who my favorite female directors were, and I had mentioned, yeah, Catherine Bigelow. She's great. The Hurt Locker was great. I love Jeremy Renner too. So just both them together, it was an incredible movie. I think it might have been one of my favorite movies of that year.
Yeah. I heard Jeremy is healing.
Yes. I mean, I love how I said that like I know him. I mean, I said it that way because I had watched like the special that he'd done a special recently. I don't remember if it was like with 60 Minutes or whatever, where he was kind of talking about his journey to rehabilitation, and the story is just crazy.
Yeah.
It was wild what he went through.
He was saving somebody.
Yeah, his I believe it was his nephew.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about your book.
Oh yeah.
Dirty Mirror Talk.
Dirty Mirror Talk.
So how did this all come about?
So between the years of 2010 and 2012, I was in and out of my car, which wasn't that much fun because it was a two-seater, two seats didn't recline. You know, they say empty pockets, failure, and heartbreaker, life's three best teachers. I had all three at once. Every agency was rejecting me at the time. I was going through the worst breakup ever, and for myself, not ever in general. And yeah, I had no money, obviously. So I would spend a lot of time in my car reading. There was a lot of synchronicity at the time. Books found their way to me that were just very prominent in my life still that I recommend to other people. There's a book called Many Lives, Many Masters that I absolutely loved, a book called The Prophet. But also I would just get these, in the midst of all that, I would just have these episodes of just like what I almost call them like downloads. And I would just come to these epiphanies. And I'd take out my BlackBerry and I'd just start jotting it all down and writing it, and even like getting up in the middle of the night, like 2 or 3 a.m., and then I'd be writing for 4 hours on my computer, and this went on and on and on and on. And eventually I just they were all dated entries, and I compiled it. And once I noticed that I started repeating the same philosophy over and over again, but through different examples, and I would cite like literature, films, and whatever as examples to the dissertation that I was sort of tackling, then I decided it was time to put it up. I didn't want to monetize off it. So I just put it up on a site called Booksy for free. I went through several revisions of it, and after, I'm pretty sure there's still some typos and some bullshit in there, and I didn't care. I just put it up for free. It's like, people will know what I meant. It's up there. But at the time, looking back on it, I would never trade that experience for anything, because I felt like having that time to self-reflect you couldn't put a price on that. That was when I went through my greatest metamorphosis, my transformation, and my growth. And had I not gone through that, I feel that if I was given what I wanted at the time, I could have potentially gone off the rails, and my ego would have taken over.
Yeah.
Ego is a great thing. I don't really get on board with the whole like starve the ego thing. It's like, I feel like ego makes life enjoyable. Individualism, expression, all those things come from ego. It's just a matter of making sure that you also have a strong enough spiritual foundation, and it's your heart and your spirit that's in the throne, and the ego's on the leash, and not the other way around, because that's when your life really starts to be all in disarray. So that was even though it was a struggle for the 2 or 3 years that I was going through that, obviously the byproduct of that was this book. And I called it Dirty Mirror Talk for an analogy that I cite in the book, but also I felt like I told you, I couldn't tell if I was writing it for someone else, for myself, or both. And I felt like as I was growing, the sense of urgency sort of diminished, and it became more stoic.
Yeah.
The sort of temperature of the writing, how I was writing, it seemed like I was yelling less.
Well, the term download, for everyone that is not familiar with that term, I love when we call each other star seeds. Like, some of us are star seeds, and we're here to make the world better. And receiving a download is when you're meditating or when you're connected to a higher dimension and you receive information, that is unearthly. And it's almost like receiving clarity and receiving the truth, right?
Yeah.
Because when we are on planet Earth, it's so dense and it's so dark, and it's like we're here to learn lessons, and it's so heavy. So a download is almost like this, like you said, an epiphany, and such a relief to be like, wow, I'm so grateful I was just given all of this information.
Absolutely.
So for anyone that's like in a slump or super depressed, like, get on your meditation grind and like start journaling and start really like connecting to a higher frequency, and you will see that you will receive a download at some point.
Absolutely. I am so grateful that at that time, even though Instagram had just begun, it was like 2012, right? I had a BlackBerry still. I had a BlackBerry up until 2018, so I didn't have that distraction. I'd be in my car sitting for hours on end in between auditions or whatever, and I'd just be reading books or writing in my BlackBerry or whatever. And I'm glad that I didn't have that available to me, because I feel that even though I consider myself to be a self-disciplined person, it's really difficult to tackle not getting distracted by my iPhone today. It's so difficult to conquer that, and road rage for me. It's like I can't.
Same. Oh my God. You guys, could you imagine not being on Instagram for a full 7 days?
Yeah, seriously.
Let's all try to do it next week. Just kidding. And yeah, the traffic in LA, the shit that comes out of my mouth, I'm like, that's
yeah.
like Smeagol from like Lord of the Rings. Like, that's not even me. Like, I cannot believe the type of person I turn into.
No, I've walked away just straight up saying, like, I'm just not a good person.
Yeah. Oh,
You
yeah.
know.
Well, we all struggle with that in LA. Okay.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
want to add on to your book, or like any more insight on that, or like advice for all of us, all of the depressed artists in the world that need inspiration?
Yes. So the book, essentially, the fundamental theme in the book is finding harmony between mind and heart, spirit and ego, how to balance both, in my opinion. And then I just cite, like I said, references of scenes from films, books, and just examples that can help sort of have it permeate and be more accessible. The ideology that was sort of coming through at the time. I guess from that, I would say it's on Booksy.com. Read it at your convenience, or if you want to, whatever. But the biggest advice I guess I would give anyone in this journey, after having been doing it for 20 years, is that I was at a place where I feel like I could have lost myself, and I just feel that when I got to that brink, I was able to almost feel what I would be losing, and then that's when I realized that you can't put a price on that. And I just feel that if you do things the right way, and if you do the work, if you learn how to take accountability, you make the music you want to listen to, you make the movies that you want to see. And because I feel the external world is a mirror of the internal. So, if you are a fan of you before anyone else is, that will mirror itself, and the right people will find their way to you. And I feel that if you're in alignment, everything that's meant to you will find its way to you. You just have to have a certain degree of faith and trust. And that's another big key factor in my book that I talk about in that journey, is how paramount faith and trust is in that journey. I feel that with the discouragement, people just give up so quick, and they end up turning a blind eye to, dangerous and perilous paths, and then that regret lives and haunts them forever. But yeah, I mean, you just have to have patience, and you have to have faith. Faith goes a long way. So that's really the best advice I could give, in addition to just making sure that the shit you're making is the shit that you like. Because if you make something that you don't like, hoping that it's going to land the accessibility card or whatever, and then people don't like it in addition to that, that's a double, you're losing twice. But if you make something you like, and at first people don't like it or whatever, then it's like, at least you have you know that you did it for the right reasons, and it's something that you dig.
What about for musicians like me that are like, we did that one session so long ago, and
A year ago, you and I?
Yeah.
It was a year ago.
And, you were like gearing me up to do that once a week, and I am so heartbroken about music. I'm so heartbroken about
me too.
the men in the music industry. So how do I get myself to have a jam session? Like, how do I get over my depression and just harness the gift without the business side of it?
Without all the like turmoiled associations that
Yeah.
are basically plaguing you and keeping you from like sitting down and actually having a writing session, because
Yeah.
it's been tainted. That well's been poisoned. I struggle with the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't sit down and write music as freely as I used to, because of my opinion of the state of affairs in music and whatever. And of course, the inspiring thing is, well, get in there and change it. And that's like, yeah, easier said than done, right? Because especially when you notice that you have other strengths, and you could live a more peaceful life, and like financially, and even just a better peace of mind not doing it, like, why? But you just called it a gift. And I feel that when you're given a gift, it's not just for you, it's for the world too. And you have a responsibility to honor that gift. And so it does take a certain degree of discipline, and it's something that I need to apply myself. I'm not just preaching to you here. I'm not trying to be didactic.
Yeah, no. Of course.
But I feel that it's difficult, but that's where the true test is. You just, you got to focus everything that you can on your healing, in addition, when you're not writing music, so that it could make it easier for you to be able to sit down and be vulnerable and open that.
It's just
those
so
doors up.
crazy to me, because you would think that I would want to do it just to have a good time. Like, I want to be
Essentially, yeah.
able to like, oh, hey, wouldn't it be fun to like jam And the feeling I get is just
Yeah,
like
I know.
sad
There's no words for it. There's
tears.
totally. There's no words for it.
I can't even do it for me.
Yeah, neither can I. I mean, it's difficult to sit down and write. I was actually thinking about it today. I was like imagining myself actually sitting down and writing a song.
Like it feels like the saddest thing to me.
It's harder. It's definitely harder. But you know what? I don't feel like we're alone in that. I feel like even people that are insanely successful in that world, and the reason
Yeah.
it's like, we're so quick as fans to, judge and critique. But can you imagine? I mean, and also having the pressure of having to live up to, the altitude, the stratospheric altitude that your previous record or whatever was at. It's like, so you have that pressure in addition to the fact that maybe you become a little bit more complacent.
Yeah.
It's extremely fucking difficult.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I would just say that you need to get back to the basics.
Right.
So if you get back to the basics and you nurture and honor your spirit, then you can get back to a place where you'll feel that you want to create.
Yeah.
Like the way when you were a kid and you didn't think about there wasn't all these career associations or who wants to fuck you or what demands you need to meet or whatever the fuck. So it's like one of my favorite quotes is a calm mind is a creative mind. So whatever you can do to find a way to like center yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's your calling, then you'll get back to doing it organically again.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I truly believe. For sure.
Okay, on that note, I want to see what the universe has to say. Do you have anything that you're looking forward to or any ambitious goals that you're hoping to achieve? Or I don't know, what's next for Ilia?
For me, I mean, obviously, like many people, I'm currently at the moment unemployed actor. But I've been blessed in the music world. So, I have my brothers in Orgy and we currently there's a tour in the works. Not sure when it's going to happen, but it's soon. We're releasing some new music. So,
but if you had a genie in the bottle, it would be a movie.
I mean, just saying, would love to work with Nolan.
Yes. Okay, we're manifesting a movie, angels. Please give us a message from the fifth dimension, the Galactic Federation, all the aliens that do exist. God damn it. Okay, so shout out to CardsyB. This is Rebecca's deck that she illustrated. And
how many am I choosing?
Just one.
Can I shuffle them myself?
Yeah, you can shuffle them. I'll put the magical music while you're shuffling. Yeah, shout out to CardsyB. We love this deck. Oh, God.
Do you flip it over or do I?
You flip it over, baby.
It's upside down.
What did you get?
It's the upside down judgment card.
Oh my God, you got Christina Aguilera.
Explain.
Yes, I'll explain. That's a major arcana card. Shout out to Xtina, especially the Stripped album. We love you so much. And your dirty, gnarly, gorgeous voice.
She can sing.
She can sing.
I mean, I really don't feel like anyone like her has come along since. Like in the tradition that she could sing. Her voice was incredible. Still is.
Yeah.
To my knowledge.
Also, that card is hilarious because she's in the judge chair for X Factor.
Really?
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. Xtina sits in a judge's chair on The Voice. Oh, it's The Voice. Rocking her 2003 Dirty Chaps. Judgment reminds us to make peace with the past, to not repeat the same mistakes in the future. We've already learned those lessons. The upright is forgiveness, release of the past, and reversal is martyrdom and indecision. Are you a martyr?
Hope not.
Are you being indecisive about something right now?
I feel like I'm indecisive all the fucking time, really. About the smallest things too. I can be, but when I move forward, when I actually like really pounce on something, I'm like 1,000,000%. But like anybody, I feel like I do have my bouts of indecision for sure.
So we're saying yes to Ilia. He's gonna get cast for something very soon. Season 2 for The Idol.
Yeah. Road Rules revamp.
Oh.
I love getting laughs out of Jesse.
I'm surprised Danny even knows what that is.
I just called him. I just totally butchered your name. I don't know why I called you Jesse, Danny.
Danny's like 18. How old are you? Oh.
Why did you say he was 18?
He looks so young.
He
Well,
does,
I
but
guess you
18
do.
is, yeah. Oh, why? Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah.
that.
I mean, you are a vampire, so.
Oh, yeah, you did mention that earlier.
You guys, We love you so much, and Ilya loves you too.
I do very much.
Thank you for listening, and I want you to read his book. I want you to go stream all of the music for Orgy. Okay?
You're sweet.
This is episode 12 of House of Royale. Have a great day, y'all.